Hi everyone. There's been a lot going on recently, news-wise, recent days. There was the G7 summit, the passing of Tina Turner yesterday, and here in Sunderland, Beyonce has been performing at the Stadium of Light. I'm not a Beyonce fan, but she's one of the most famous people in the world, so it's a big local story here. We also had in Sunderland, if anyone's familiar with the Nikki Allen case, it's been reported in national papers. Little girl who was murdered in 1992. Very high profile case here, and for over 30 years, her family's been trying to get justice. An innocent man was initially implicated, but finally, the killer has been sentenced. 20, actually, yeah, 29 years, I believe he got. It's not technically a whole life tariff, but at his age, realistically, it's a life sentence. Um, that was a very raw case in Sunderland. The circumstances were particularly brutal. I've always said it is to Sunderland what the Bulger case was to Liverpool. Anyway, I digress. So there's been a lot going on. In the background, there was this riot in Cardiff, and that's what I want to focus a little bit about here, because there are implications of this that I think go beyond this one housing estate, Ely, in the city of Cardiff. So I've just been looking at this report from the Daily Mail by James Tozer. I'm not going to read out the whole thing, but this is the report. It's from the 24th of May. What is the truth behind Cardiff Riot? Cardiff remained on edge last night after police confirmed they had been following two boys before they died in an electric bike crash, sparking hours of rioting. Now, there's a few things about this that don't quite add up in the sense of, and I'm not pushing conspiracy theories here, I just mean that information is contradictory. Um, the police clearly were chasing them at least for part of this, if not at the time of impact, certainly for part of it. I don't understand why the police won't just say that because they were doing their job. I mean, apparently the parents of these boys who were killed, it's Harvey Evans, 15, and Kiri Sullivan, 16, have blamed the police and said the police killed them. Well, these boys were on an electric scooter without helmets, thundering down the road, goodness knows what speed. Responsibility is a word that's missing, i.e., what were the parents doing? Now, I'm not going to gloat about this. I'm not going to say it was their own fault or something. Technically, it was, but I think we have to, bear in mind that two teenagers have died and there are two grieving families. So I want to be sensitive to that. But I do think there is implications here that go beyond this. This could have been any city in Britain. It happened to be Cardiff. It could have been Newcastle. It could have been Sunderland. It could have been Leeds. It could have been Glasgow. It could have been any housing estate in Britain. Um, this particular estate has had problems before. In 1991, there was a riot there over two rival businesses and bread, I understand. Um, Cars were torched and 15 officers injured in horrific scenes on Monday night after claims that Kiri Sullivan, 16, and Harvey Evans, 15, were being chased by police. Now, there's mixed messages coming out. The police themselves are denying it. Khalid Ficken, Plaid Cymru's Sinn Féin member for, might be Senate member, I should say, Senate member for South Wales Central, called for a full investigation to ensure peace is restored and that this never happens again. That's probably right. It's probably appropriate that there is a full inquiry because, two boys have died and there's been significant unrest. Among the unrest, it said that dozens were involved. It went on for hours. Local resident Ahmad Abdullah, 34, told the BBC he had heard rioters saying they would not stop until they killed a police officer. So that's the sort of temperature that was there. The father of three, whose taxi was among the vehicles damaged, added that that's his livelihood. If people in this community don't feel safe now, we feel it could escalate any time. Jane Palmer watched from a window as people set fire to her car, saying, I am disabled, so now I'm trapped without my car. Why are they doing this? It's just silly. That's putting it lightly. I mean, these thugs who were rioting, it's just mindless vandalism. They're obviously angry that these two boys died. Probably they knew the boys. Probably the rioters were among their friends, but I've seen the footage, and the portrayal that they were just innocent children. They weren't. They were teenagers who were illegally riding these scooters without helmets. And here's a important point to consider: if they had knocked down a younger child, would all those bleating about sympathy really, what about the sympathy for ordinary people? Antisocial behaviour ruins lives. This is the fundamental crux of this thing. Harvey's godmother, Brady Bull, said Harvey was a typical 15-year-old who loved motorbikes, bikes, and football, and who had eaten dinner with his mother, Nadine, just 10 minutes before he died. She insisted the boys had done nothing to spark a police chase, adding, they were barefaced, innocent children. I beg to differ. If they're thundering down the road on an electric scooter, goodness knows what speed, they could have killed someone. They could have killed themselves, they did. But they could have killed someone else. So no, they were not innocent. They were young, but they were not innocent. Um, of course, it's a sad situation. These young men could have turned their lives around. They could have had opportunities in the future. They could have led full, productive lives, and instead, they made the wrong decisions, and this is the tragic outcome. But this tendency to blame everyone but those responsible. The parents, they're grieving, but they're completely wrong to blame the police. Completely wrong. Um, just read a little bit more here. Initially, Alan Michael, Labour's Police and Crime Commissioner for South Wales, said the trigger was false rumours of a police involvement in the double tragedy. It would appear that there were rumours, and those rumours became rife, of a police chase, which wasn't the case, he told Radio 4's Today programme. It's confusing because certainly the police were chasing them for part of that. Now, I think the police should just be upfront about that. I think, not being upfront help matters. But the police shouldn't have to fear just saying that, because they were chasing boys on an electric scooter, potentially endangering the public. I just think that there's an atmosphere here, or there's a sensation, a feeling that the police feel that being honest about doing their jobs would actually escalate tensions. Now, what does that say about society? This is a picture of the two deceased boys. Yeah, they look very angelic. Quite honestly, I think, from what we know of them, I think they're the sort of kids who would, break windows of an old person's house. I think that there is a culture here that is being kind of enabled and excused, and it's, there's no gloating from this. There's nothing good about it. It's sad that these teenagers have died, but it's their own fault, frankly. It's tragic, but it is their own fault. If they'd been wearing helmets, if they hadn't been thundering down the road. And, I think it's disturbing that people are dismissing this as, oh, just kids play. It's what all kids do. Well, what does that say? What does that say? Now, in the separate development, there's a TikToker who's got attention. Let me just get his name up if I can. Just bear with me a second. I have to open another page. And he's got his name in the press for basically breaking into people's homes. Showing no remorse. Piers Morgan interviewed him, and I've mixed feelings on whether someone like that should be interviewed. I suppose the argument is there's a legitimate debate around it, and by interviewing him, you get into the mindset. But just get this up. Probably should have had this before I started the video, but it is related. So, and he's only 18. Showed no remorse. He was given a fine, but it's a joke. Let's see here. Police searching for TikTok prankster, so-called prankster. Ari Ogaro, who uses the name Mizzy online, has been widely criticised after videos of him circulating on social media. He got a fine, I think it was over £300, but if he's raking up thousands, maybe even millions of views, who knows where it's going to go, and he's getting monetised for that, then £358 or whatever it was is nothing. It really is a tap on the wrist. Breaking and entering, I think he should have got a custodial sentence. I was going to say in a young offenders institute, he's 18, so actually he's an adult. Um, But the fact this guy has no remorse. What's to stop him going into someone's house and someone being frightened, understandably taking the law into their own hands, and he gets killed. Now, if he is sentenced and he's given a custodial sentence, actually that would be in his own interest. Stop a member of the public taking the law into their own hands. And then, of course, if that happened, he's black, so people would be crying racism. He himself has claimed that the negativity is only because he's black. I mean, the guy is clearly pretty brainless, except for he's assertive enough to know how to rack up followers. His logic is completely vacuous. This is an example of enabling of criminal behaviour. Now, the incident in Cardiff, going back to that, instead of taking some responsibility and figure, well, why were our teenage sons doing this? Why were they riding on the same vehicle at high speed without helmets? What responsibility do we have as parents? Oh no, it's someone else's fault. We'll blame the police. Now, there's times the police should face scrutiny, unlawful arrests, holding people in detention when they've done nothing wrong, abuse of power, and thugs in uniform. All of that stuff needs to be taken seriously and investigated. I also think we need to be quite careful not to be in a situation where the police are so hyper cautious they then don't act. I mean, what would be the implications here if they think, well, there was a riot when we done our jobs and followed these two, and again, there's mixed messages coming out. They're saying that they didn't, but there's footage to show they did. They did. CCTV footage seemed to show that. So whatever the case, if the implication is, well, we better not pursue this, we better not follow up on antisocial behaviour or reckless driving of a vehicle. It doesn't matter that it's not a car. Even an electric scooter can kill someone if it's going fast enough. Um, what are the implications if the police then don't act? Because they think, well, what's the point? We're going to be blamed if something goes wrong. I don't want a situation where the police are shackled that way. I want the police to be empowered. And, the Yobs who were rioting there, they would have found any excuse. I think they were genuinely angry, probably because their friends died. But, all the time the emergency services are attacked. Firefighters, nurses, police officers. It happens all the time where Britain's job culture, rears its ugly head, and these people are attacked for trying to do their job. Happens all the time. So the emergency services need to be empowered to be able to do their job. If this meant, getting backup from other forces in Wales, I'm not quite sure how it works in Wales. I think the South Wales Police and North Wales Police, I think like Scotland, it's greatly broken down now. But if need be, send other officers in. The number one thing is keeping the public safe, and it's a disgrace that you have a situation where yobs basically do what they want for so many hours. And what really disgusts me? There will be people, maybe even some people watching this video, who will actually take the side of the yobs and say, oh, but their friend died, so they've a right to set strangers' cars on fire. It's this enabling and justification of criminal behaviour. I am telling you, they would have found any excuse for that. And of course, there's going to be underlying factors, unemployment, social alienation, drugs, you name it. There's going to be a lot of things that are thrown into that mix that create that environment. But I think one of the biggest problems we have today is too many people are willing to defend that behaviour. I don't think it's a majority. I think the majority are on the side of the police, and that was certainly the impression I got from reading the comments online. But there will be a lot of people in that state who will blame the police. And, in other states around the country, there will be Yobs who are blaming the police. So there is an underhand problem here where I think the police feel they are being shackled from doing their job. Of course, corrupt officers need to be held to account. I think that the police need to purge themselves of people who should not be in uniform. But that does not mean the police, as a body, as a force to protect the public, should be shackled from doing their job, because that is a very, very damaging message. Let me know your thoughts. If you happen to live in Cardiff or near Cardiff, maybe you know more than I do. I'm just going on secondary information here, basically what has already been reported. I hope there's no further unrest. It's obviously a tough neighbourhood. Like I said, this could have happened in any housing estate in Britain. But I think what people are missing here is the antisocial behaviour aspect of it. If kids are going up and down on electric scooters, causing noise, goodness knows this was at daytime, but it could have been nighttime. You know, this is the sort of thing that really plagues a community. It's not trivial behaviour. It's not innocent kids doing what they want. It's criminal behaviour, and that's the point that needs to be underlined. It's criminal behaviour. Um, So, with all due respect to the families, they're suffering, but they need to maybe reflect and think, well, it's some of this our own fault, or are our sons gone because of our parenting skills? That has to come into it, instead of this culture of always blaming everyone else. So, I'm with the police on this one, and I think they've responded, apart from the contradictory reports, they referred themselves to the watchdog. They've done the right thing. And I really hope that there's no further sort of action, or I hope they're not shackled from doing their job. Because if you have, I mean, this lady who's lost her car and she's disabled, they're the people I feel sorry for, not the yobs who are writing. So this enabling of criminal behaviour, and in terms of Mizzy, this TikTok crap, the judge in that case, again, this is a common sense deficit. Why doesn't he look at the failure for the suspect to show any remorse? That should be a guiding factor in sentencing. Maybe the judge's hands are tied, and again, this comes down to the sentencing council. I was going to say the approach to youth crime. Well, an 18-year-old is technically an adult, but it's just generally this attitude of like people literally laughing at the law. Mizzy will literally be laughing at that, literally, because he can afford the 358 quid. I wish I had that to throw away. I wish I had that sort of money to just, I could do what I want and then I'll just pay the fine. So clearly it's no deterrent. He's going to do it again. And, it will either, he could break into an old person's house, give them a heart attack, or some homeowner will take matters into their own hands and maybe, it could end up in a fatality. If that happens, I hope the presiding judge uses their head and recognises the aggravating factor. This guy is potentially dangerous. If he has this attitude, he can just break into people's homes. I hope, frankly, someone roughs him up a bit. I mean that because I think that he has a complacency. I hope someone roughs him up. I'm not talking about killing him, but I hope they sufficiently scare him to, make him think twice on his behaviour. I think they'd be well within their legal rights. And speaking personally, if, I wouldn't be reckless, but if someone came into my home and I didn't think they were armed, I would have no problem giving them a few hooks. I wouldn't go over the top. I wouldn't kill them, but I do think that there is a fundamental principle here. If someone violates your safety, if someone violates your sanctuary, then their rights basically go out the window to a large extent. Um, anyway, I'm going off on a tangent, but this sort of tolerance of criminality, these excuses for criminality, antisocial behaviour, it's poison. And one last thing about Mizzy, the TikTok culture, Instagram culture, social media culture, you can absolutely be sure that his fans will be lapping it up, or what house you're going to break into next. They'll be lapping it up and making excuses for him. And if someone actually does take the law into their own hands, people will be saying, "Oh, it's racist. He's black." It's perverse. It's absolutely insane. And I so would like to see a situation where the public once again feel empowered against criminals. Part of that is empowering the police. But the police have to act as well. They cannot shackle themselves and they cannot be reluctant to act from fear. Which brings me to the next video. Stay tuned.